And the Eagles make some more moves. Welcome to the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, that's what we're looking at right now. This is the Tony Cotillo Show, live right here on the Tony Cotillo Show. First time ever on the Tony Cotillo Show Facebook page. So make sure you get over there. I'm actually sending this right now, talking Eagles. Remember, it's only me here. Coaching moves and free agency losses, because I want to hear what everybody has to think about free agency a little bit right now. So let's see. All right. Share. We got this. Let's go. All right, we're in. We got that going on. Listen, man, when you're your own guy and you're doing your own things, you got to do your own time, your own things, man. It's just the way it rolls, man. It's the way it rolls. And listen, speaking of rolling, man, listen, not only were the Philadelphia Eagles rolling, they are Super Bowl champions, but they're Super Bowl champions, but at the same time, with being Super Bowl champions and with being really good, what happens is you lose coaches, you lose players, right? It happens all the time. I mean, that's what it's all about. You lose coaches, you lose players, right? And how good you are to refill those positions. It shows what kind of culture and what kind of team that you have. So again, if you're following right now on X, if you're following anywhere else, make sure you get over to that YouTube page and you like and subscribe. I apologize if I'm so a little congested, man. I've been fighting like this forever cold, man. I know a lot of people had like forever cold. It's like it's absolutely insane. But let's talk about this a little bit, because I think what happened today or yesterday when it was announced, obviously, if you're sleeping under a rock, Eagles promote Kevin Patullo to the offensive coordinator position. Long time Nick Sirianni guy, right? One of his cool buddies, one of his best friends. The obvious pick, and I say obvious pick because I think we all know, based on the time of the pick, based on, when you go to the Super Bowl, here's the thing. When you go to the Super Bowl and you have this extensive playoff run, you obviously you get punished a little bit by being able to pick the right coaches because they're already gone. Right. So, I mean, most likely the hires always come from within if they're not already dealt with. Right. I mean, I think we all know that. The issue, though, what a lot of people are having, and I'm starting to have a little bit, is maybe I'm being spoiled here. I don't know. But again, no search. Like, I think we've been down this road a few times, right? And I don't think we can help it. Unfortunately, we can't help it. But the thing is, the question's going to be, did they learn from last time, or are they going to revert back? And what I mean by that is, listen, there's a really good article on Bleeding Green Nation, one of my favorite follows. So a lot of this information I'm reading you is strictly from there. But from this is what they wrote, and I think this is pretty evident of the way a lot of people felt. From outside looking in, Patullo doesn't necessarily seem like a slam dunk candidate from a merit standpoint. A few concerns. He's never been an offensive coordinator before, and he doesn't have extensive play calling experience. He's been Nick Sirianni's right-hand man since arriving in Philly, and the Eagles clearly wanted Sirianni to be less involved with the offense after the 2023 collapse, hence the Moore hiring. So let's stop there for a second. We know what happened with Sirianni. We know what happened with the offense. So if Kevin Patullo was such a strong candidate, why did they go after Kellen Moore? Like, that's the thing that bothers me, because I look at this and say Sirianni and Patullo were always a package deal, just like Jalen Hurts and Brian Johnson. So if Patullo was such a strong candidate, why did they even bring in Kellen Moore? See, that's what concerns me. That's what concerns me. My man Christian checking it says, happened a bit fast, but I think regardless, he was going to be the next man up weeks ago. I agree. Like it is the inevitable, right? That's why I just started off with this live right here on the Tony Cotello Show. Make sure you're getting over. Listen, if you are not on the YouTube subscription page, make sure you get over there. Because I'm just telling you again, you see the tagline. It's a Tony Cotello Show, not just Philly. I talk so many different things besides Philly. Wrestling, different sports, just I got a lot of big things coming up with different segments. I like to do a lot of different things. So make sure you get over that YouTube page. I'm trying to build that. We're at like 406 subscribers, but man, I'm okay. I'm building it organically. I'm not buying anything, not paying for anything. And it's been really, really good. So I want to continue to build that and show everybody that says I couldn't do it that I can do it. But getting back to the Patullo thing, that I think is the only sticking point that's bothering me is that if they were really high on this guy, they would have given him a chance instead of Kellen Moore. And the reason why they didn't give him a chance is because they had a collapse and they know that he was a part of that. So what does that say? Will the second time around be different? Will he be able to reinvent himself like Nick Sirianni in the second half of the year? I don't know, right? I don't know. So let's continue to read. The line between Sirianni and Patullo could be blurred, which was an issue with the Sirianni-Johnson dynamic. The Eagles' passing game hasn't exactly been awesome this season. Now, this is what earlier in the season, right? So it's before the Super Bowl, but think about it. We all talked about it. As Sheil Kapadia, awesome Fox. Sheil is the man. Recently noted they ranked 14th in passing DVOA, which was tied for the lowest ranking in any season with Hurts as a starter. It's not like the Eagles lack the required talent for a top 10 passing offense. Last line. This isn't to suggest that Patullo doesn't stand a chance at being a good candidate. Perhaps he has a promising plan to fix some of the offensive issues from this season, even though they won the Super Bowl. Now, right now, should the Eagles hire Kevin Patullo as their offensive coordinator? This article was written the other day, right before they hired him. Okay, at that time, okay, this is from first week of February. 19% yes, 81% no. Okay, now when they did hire him, 44% yes, 56% no of who liked it and who didn't. Fans are speaking, everybody's speaking, but I will say this. Isn't it a little easier now that you already won the chip? Isn't it a little easier knowing you already got the trophy? Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate, and I'm going to get a lot of people that say, "Oh, see, here you go again. You're backing off. You say you won one, you're good." No. I'm not saying that. Not saying I'm not hungry for another one. I'm not saying I don't want to see a dynasty, right? We're going to say that D word a couple times on this show. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, I look at this and I say to myself that it's different if you're experimenting before you won the chip. So now, hypothetically, if it doesn't work, it's like a mulligan. Whether we like it or not, it's like a mulligan, right? It doesn't hinder them at all. But here's what I do like about it. Let's talk about what I do like about this hire. What I do like about this hire is, and I know that Jalen was familiar with Brian Johnson as well, but Jalen always getting different coordinators, never staying in the same system. Well, at least this guy was involved, right? I'm not saying call plays, but he was involved. So a little bit of consistency when it comes to coach and quarterback, right? But another thing that I think is very interesting is every year when you bring somebody in like a Kellen Moore and you win and he does well, that person's going to be targeted, for a head coaching job. Well, the good thing about Patullo is if he is Nick Sirianni's right-hand guy, and, he kind of has that Vic Fangio effect to where, yes, eventually, does he probably want to be a head coach somewhere? Sure. Who wouldn't, right? Who doesn't want to go secure that bag? But it's not going to be next year. So even if he blows the doors off here, it's not going to be next year. So at least you have an option to have somebody in that position for multiple years. So I think that's a positive, right? The other positive is Jalen Hurts progression, the offense progression. Brian Johnson was here. We didn't have a running game. Brian Johnson was here. We didn't have a Saquon Barkley, right? We didn't have a ridiculous offensive line like we do right now. So all those things add up. And I think that's the one thing that I say consistency maybe gives you the edge a little bit. Listen, it just when you make these hires, when you're a good team, it's just a bad time. It's just a bad time because there's not a lot of people around. You're not going to go plucking some dude off of college. There is nobody there. Again, there's nobody waiting in the wings in order to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we really wanted that guy. Let's go after that. Those guys are not around right now. Okay, they're not around right now. So what we're doing is we're taking the best of what we have. We're taking the best of what we have. My man Japan checking in. What's up, Japan? So again, Philly. If you are Philly, if you're not Philly, and you listen, what do you think about the Kevin Patullo hire? I also want to get back into free agency. And I want to know from Eagles fans, what if you strike out in free agency? Are you okay if you bring nobody back? Right? I honestly want to know that. Are you okay if you bring nobody back? No Bond, no Becton, no Milton, no Sweat. Are you going to sweat? If you bring nobody back, are you going to sweat? That's like, again, what if you strike out? What if you lose out in free agency? What if the Eagles lose out in free agency? Because listen, the prospects are there. They're there. Now, I feel multiple different ways about this. And this is probably not going to be a popular take. Okay. Higher within is good. They need those guys. Japan, and that's the good side of it, right? So I agree with that. My man Chris checking in. Now, Chris, you're gonna love this, man. This is why me and you were always on the same page. Okay, he writes, "I'm fine with it because Fangio's system is legit." So let's think about if the Eagles just bust out and get nobody, no Bond, he's gone, right? Say Zach Bond goes, gets a bag with somebody else. The last guy that we had, now again, Zach Bond balled out. Should have been defensive player of the year. Okay. He on another level. Checks all the boxes for the Eagles. Character, culture, work ethic, talent, everything. Right? But we had a guy named TJ Edwards that was very, very good. Leading tackler. We still let him go. We have Vic Fangio here that technically could we start to see the evolution of Vic Fangio like Jeff Stoutland? Every time we lose an O-lineman, we always say, that's okay. Stoutland University. What if we have Fangio University? What if this was, ready? Let's do this. Let's call it Fangio's Farm. What if we have Fangio's Farm? Think about it. He built Bond this year. He built Nakobe Dean this year. Right? He revitalized Orton Burks. Like Vic Fangio, this was Fangio's farm. So technically, the lineage is there just with other teams like guys like Navarro Bowman that Vic Fangio built up. So if you lose Zach Bond, are we going to go crazy? Listen, I want Zach Bond back. I do. But you have to understand, man, like you got to pick your poison here. You have to understand whether you're a Philadelphia Eagle fan or a straight up NFL fan, you have to understand the way the system works. Okay? Listen, Joe Burrow made an idiotic statement about paying everybody because the Eagles don't pay everybody. They pay the right guys and they pay them the right way. Okay? So this team doesn't work if there's no Cooper DeJean and Kason Mitchell, right? Or Quinn. I always say Kason. No Quinyon Mitchell. This team doesn't work if there's Isaiah Rodgers. This team doesn't work. It doesn't work without these guys, okay? So eventually, you're going to have to rely on Stoutland University and Fangio's farm. Now, do I think Zach Bond will be back? I do. I really do. And let me just tell you why. Okay. Let me tell you why. Again, this is the Tony Cotillo Show. This is the live show. I am Tony Cotillo. Make sure you get over to that YouTube page. Okay, you're liking and subscribing that YouTube page. If you're on Facebook, get over to that Facebook Tony Cotillo Show. Make sure you're liking and subscribing that as well. Pumping out content every day, been dropping major content about all different things, and got more ahead, and like so much things coming on. But tonight we're talking birds, we're talking little eagles, we're talking, are you okay? If you're just checking in, are you okay with the Kevin Patullo hire, and what happens if you strike out in free agency? So let's get back to that. Let's get back. I'm listen, guys, whoever's tuning in, I am branding this right now. Fangio's Farm. Okay. So if you see anybody, Fangio's Farm, all right, that's what we're going to brand this. So I want Zach Baun back. I think he is going to be back. And the only reason why is because Zach Baun is an Eagle. And you're going to say, Tony, what are you talking about? How can he? It's only been 1 year. Listen to me. I said this today in the barbershop, and I continue to say this. Saquon Barkley, the reason why Saquon Barkley is here is because he's a hell of a good person. And he understands the Eagles' culture, meaning his way was the Eagles' way. He says the right things, goes about his business the right way. He's not a distraction. Okay? So many different things he does is exactly what Jeffrey Lurie wants and Howie Roseman wants in that NovaCare Center. So when they went out and signed Saquon, I wasn't shocked. Now, guess what? If Saquon was just a dynamic running back and had none of those qualities, they don't sign him. Okay? They don't sign him. Zach Baun is the same way. Zach Baun is an Eagle. Zach Baun is a student of the game. He is a good person. He understands the culture, and he's a leader. And that's what the Eagles want. However, if another team comes in, and I keep saying it's going to be Carolina, if another team like Carolina comes in and throws the bag at him, I said this before and I'll say it again, don't get mad at Zach. Okay? He's earned it. However, he is 28 years old. Going to be 28. Okay? So there's a lot of things that go into this decision. So if he's going to get the bag, he's going to get the bag. And if he does get the bag, am I going to be worried? Listen, I don't want to lose him, but I have faith in Fangio's Farm. Right? Just like if I lose Mekhi Becton, which I love Mekhi Becton. He's the biggest guard in the NFL. He revitalized his career under Jeff Stoutland. Not just under Jeff Stoutland. He knows the Eagles gave him a shot. However, there's also a guy with the last name of Steen. That Tyler Steen. That's sitting there in the wings. A guy that was drafted. Right? A guy that can play the position because Stoutland's University. So, again, I have already said that Josh Sweat's gone. Josh Sweat's been gone. He continues to be gone, right? Milton Williams gone. The only two guys, in my opinion, that you have a shot to keep is going to be Becton and Baun. And my man Chris checking in, and I agree right now. I think Becton stays. And if not, Steen or Keegan will fill. Exactly. But I'm with you. Like, if you ask me, who do you have more confidence in staying out of those four? I'm going to tell you it's Mekhi Becton over everybody. I am. I'm going to tell, because I don't think the market is going to be as high for Mekhi Becton. Now, here's the thing. Let me ask you this question. Let's think about this. My man Mike checking in, Mikey V checking in. He says he's talking about Zach Baun won't get pennies, but he knows his worth. He's happy to have a chance. My man Mikey V checking. Finally, some fresh takes. I'm trying fresh takes with a fresh fade, bro. You know what I mean? Like doing what I could do. But let's think about this for a second. Because we always got to play a long game in Philadelphia, right? If we want to stay consistent, we got to play the long game. So we got a guy, Lane Johnson, who, listen, the man is an absolute beast, okay? Absolute beast. But he can't play forever. right? He does get injured. He's had some issues in the past, and it's going to happen as time goes on, right? Nobody really there as a predecessor to Lane Johnson. Remember, Mekhi Becton drafted as a tackle. Now, he didn't work out as a tackle, but I think that was more of the situation he was in. He didn't play tackle here because you already had the bookends. So they put him at guard and revitalized his career. However, who's to say that they don't sign Becton and make him a priority because he's young? Okay, he's young. And they say, you know what? This could be our predecessor to Lane Johnson. So we work Tyler Steen in why we're training Becton to be that right tackle. Okay. And on the other hand, you have a guy in Cam Jurgens who just had back surgery today. Also, a guy in Landon Dickerson who's probably going to need surgery as well. So the reason why I bring that up is because you have Landon Dickerson that fills into the center position. So now the guard is going to be that much more important, which again, insert Mekhi Becton. So I honestly think if you ask me right now, and I know people, I'm going to be honest, and this is just my heartfelt ideology right here. I love Zach Bond, but I think he's going to have himself outpriced in this market. I do. I think with the salary cap growth, okay, that's exploded a little bit with teams out there having a lot more money than the Eagles right now. And for the simple fact that we would get a third round compensatory pick, I got to tell you, man, if I'm saying who would I rather keep, I know it's not the popular take here, but I would hold on to Mekhi Becton. I'm telling you, he would be my number one priority. I would go back to Bond. And I know that's not a popular take. I understand now. I get it. Right? I understand it. But I do think that you can find a suitable replacement that won't have the year that Zach Bond had. But for future, I think Becton is a little more valuable. And again, that's just my opinion, right? You could call me an idiot. You could call me, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to give you the logic that I'm looking at. Okay. I am. I'm trying to give you the logic that I'm looking at. And who knows too, man? Like we don't really know what free agency is going to look like, right? There could be some other listen, there could be a couple other options. I'm not sure. Right. But I do think that, Milt Williams being gone, because he's going to get the bag. Listen, his dad has been so vocal, and the dude's wearing the Clutch Sports hoodies, and he's gone, man. He's gone. Like, we already knew he was gone. But you should know Milt Williams was gone when they tried to do an in-season extension, and he said no. I mean, off-season extension, and he said no because he wanted to bet on himself. He wanted to bet on himself, and he did. He kicked ass, man. Like, legitimately, he kicked ass. He balled out, had a great year, and you look at the other guy in Josh Sweat who did the same thing, who damn near should have been close to the MVP of that game if he gets one more sack. But the thing is, what I think is great about this. I want to get back to Kevin Patullo in a little bit. But what's great about this team going forward is there's a young nucleus on defense, especially on the ends with Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt. I mean, just think about it in Jalix Hunt. Like, Jalix Hunt, and I heard somebody talking about it, and I'm not sure who talked about it. I don't know if it was on the radio but he should have been credited with a full sack in that game. And, he didn't. They gave a quarter sack to, I think, maybe Nolan Smith or Amajo, whatever his name is. But Jalix Hunt's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem. If you go back and watch that game, he was causing fits on the right side of that line. Big time. Big time. And the one thing about him is he was like the Mailata experiment, but on defense, right? He wasn't drafted as late as Mailata, but it was always like, this guy's raw, doesn't know how to play the position, just raw. hungry and raw. And he got coached up, man. Vic coached him up. I mean, you heard specifically, you heard Nolan Smith when they asked, yo, man, I owe it all to Vic. He's like, yo, Vic, old as hell. It's exactly what he said. Vic, old as hell, but I'll take whatever Vic wants to give me. That's what he said. So, just looking at that and understanding it and seeing what the Philadelphia Eagles can get back from a draft standpoint. Yes, my man could say he killed Joe Tooney. Oh my God. You know what's great? And again, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm not. But listen, when you're a crazy knucklehead like I am, whether you're doing sports betting, whether you're just watching the games in general, I watched a lot of film study. I watched a lot of people like Baldy break down certain games, and I watched my man Andrew DeCecco on 97.5, who does a fantastic job in Philadelphia, breaking things down. Fran Dunphy Jr. does a fantastic job breaking things down. And every time I watch some of that film, the one guy that stood out was Jalix Hunt when he was on the field. He was developing this power rush about him, something we haven't seen since Trent Cole. Think about that name, Trent Cole. Look at Jalix Hunt and think guys like Trent Cole, Hugh Douglas, Derek Burgess. This is the kind of rusher that you're going to get with Jalix Hunt. And he actually could be just as good as possibly even better. Possibly even better. We shall see. So that's going to prove to be a gem of a pick by Howie Roseman, right? So you already have that cohesion with the line. So there's a lot of things that come into play here, right? That when you're going to have to settle out who gets paid and who doesn't. And for me, for my money, I just think, again, that I go Becton and then I go Bond. And I think that's the order of the way the two guys have to go. And because it's a foregone conclusion to me that number one, that Milt Williams is gone. Number two, that Josh Sweat is gone. And number three, Darius Slay is gone as well. It's just going to be listen, they're going to tender Isaiah Rodgers. He gets another full year. They go with Q, they go with Cooper DeJean. And I'll tell you what, man, I don't know what they're going to do with him, and I don't know what he's going to command, but one of the most important plays of the entire game was Avonte Maddox. And Avonte Maddox sucked for the whole year, man. He was terrible. Like, he was benched. He came up big in that game. So I'm just saying, to have that, there's options. And I'll say this again. The options are, number one, they're endless, and they're much easier when you've already won the chip, right? When you've already won the chip. So that's a big deal. Now let's swing back to the coaching for a second, because I do think that, Kevin Patullo is very intriguing to me with certain things. And the other thing is, too, I don't think you can discount the fact that they'll bring in a special assistant. I think that'll happen. Okay. They're good for that. I don't think they needed it this year, but they're good for that. And they also remember, too, I mean, like I said, it's looking like the Indianapolis Colts again, and that's why I say offensive assistant, because I could see them bringing in Frank Reich as an offensive senior consultant, just like they did with Vic Fangio a few years ago on the defense, right? So I could see them bringing in a Frank Reich in that role, not calling a play, just being that consultant with Patullo, those guys working together. So I don't think this is done by any means. I don't. And then they bring over from the Miami Dolphins, they bring over Parks Frazier to be their new passing game coordinator to take over, okay, for Kevin Patullo. And, he was with the Miami Dolphins. And he actually has a pretty extensive resume for being 33. Okay. He was at Sanford's defensive quality control, Middle Tennessee State defensive quality control, Indianapolis Colts assistant to the head coach, right? In 2018, 2019. In 2020, he's the Indianapolis Colts quality control guy, which is just the Gatorade dude. And then 21, 22, he's the assistant quarterback coach. Then he goes to Carolina, and he's a passing game quarter out there in Carolina in 2023. And then last year, he's in Miami as an offensive assistant. Now, he notably overlapped with Sirianni in Indy in 2018, 2019. He actually finished the 2022 season calling plays for the Colts after Frank Reich got fired and Jeff Saturday took over. So thank you, Bleeding Green Nation, for that really good nugget that I was not aware of. And that's obviously from BLG, Brandon Lee Gout. Make sure you get over there and read that article today, because really, really good stuff over there. So a lot of, exactly, my man Mike, who's out there? Nobody, right? Nobody. It says people were saying they didn't like the hire, but listen, that's why I said, Mike, I'm not a fan. I'm not saying I'm not saying I really love it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I hate it. It's just kind of like you know what I mean? Like, blah. All right, but there's nobody there. Like you said, there's nobody there. It's too late in the game to reinvent anything, right? So that's my biggest thing. It's too late in the game. So you weren't going to get anybody, right? So, again, looking at it as a whole, I think you have a very good support base, of coaches. You really do. Right, Singleton as the running backs coach. You got Stoutland as the running back play caller or something. Like, they all have these offensive minds. So this is never, this is going to be different this year, right? And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's the thing. I honestly I don't know. Only time's going to tell. I'm not reading in between the lines or anything. I'm not reading into Jalen Hurts' answer, because Jalen Hurts is the most vanilla dude in the world with his responses, right? Like, you really can't read anything into that. That's just him being Jalen, right? So I can't gauge it on anything. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to see how the offense looks. And if it looks like it's reverting back to what it did, pre-bye week and 2023, we're going to have a problem. We're gonna have a problem. But I think, as much as I don't like it, and as much as I understand why it was done, is as much as I understand why they felt the need to allow Sirianni to go do this. Right? I do. I think he earned this leverage to be able to hire his guy. And I don't know if it's gonna work out, like I said, but I do think he earned it. And I think it's the first step. Right? It's the first step in him getting more of that power back when it comes to being a head coach. Listen, this dude's going to get paid like a top 5 coach in the NFL with an extension, man. Like, he's going to get some buku money, man. Ridiculous money. So get used to it, right? So you might as well allow him to insert some of his power now. My man Mike says, I don't care about titles they have. I think Nick will benefit having them around and using their strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, listen, I agree, right? Agreed. I think this is, you heard the team specifically talk about team philosophy, team culture. You heard a lot of stories about this team being a tight bonded group. You heard the players talk about it. You heard the media talk about it, right? You heard the coaches talk about it. You heard the families talk about it. So I don't think for one second that the coaches aren't just a strong knit family like the players. And I shouldn't say if, knowing that they are, this is going to be a seamless transition. Honestly, and I think the biggest onus will be on Nick to understand that he can't be the guy. That even though, he has, he brings in his guy, he's got to let his guy be the guy. Right? Just like you did with Kellen Moore, let the guy be the guy. So that's going to be interesting. Mike says, who could be a Vic? Exactly. And that, honestly, Mike, that's what I brought up earlier. So Mike brings up a great point, right? He says, who could be a Vic type OC? A guy is not going to leave yet and is still valuable. I think it's the guy you have right now. And that was my only positive with this hire, Mike. Honestly, was saying that, when you brought Vic in, you knew he wasn't going to go anywhere. And now that you bring, not bring, but you keep Patullo around and you elevate him, now it gives you some consistency. He doesn't have the cred to, even if he knocks it out the park this year, he's not going to get a head coaching job. He's going to have to be an OC for a couple years. So if this works out, you've buying yourself a good 2-year window of consistency at the OC position, right? I do feel that way. I do feel. I mean, that's just my own opinion because I don't think those other guys are out there. Right? Exactly, Christian. He's shot. You're right. Listen, that's why I said I honestly think Frank Reich will be a part of this at some point. As a consultant, as a guy that comes in, I do. I think that Frank Reich does come in as a consultant, like special advisor to the head coach, or he's gonna. I think he's gonna be involved. He's shop at calling plays, but he still has a ton of knowledge and maybe can help Patullo grow into certain situations. Why you got Sirianni still being kind of like that CEO. So I do think that's where we're headed. Mike says I'm only asking for exactly 2 years, man. Give me a 2-year stability at OC. Give Jalen a two. I'll even go 3 years, right? But looking around the NFL, I think a lot of those young, touted guys, are out there. Aren't out there. Like you could have brought in a guy like Byron Leftwich again. Do you really want Byron Leftwich? Like, no, like I didn't want Byron Leftwich, right? So, Eric Bieniemy, no, like, these guys, I'm not sold on some of these guys anymore. I'm just not. I think so, I'll ruffle some feathers here, which is fine. And I think this was pretty interesting. And I think it's a complete joke and why I hate social media sometimes. So if he wasn't hired in Vegas, I would have been on the Chip Kelly train all over again. I would have signed up for Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. I would have signed up. Now, I did a segment yesterday saying the same thing, and I got called a racist. Like I have no idea because all of a sudden I was a Chip Kelly guy. Like I didn't understand that. I was saying that I want Chip Kelly the person. No, I want Chip Kelly the offensive mastermind. I wanted Chip Kelly the offensive guru, the second stint around Chip Kelly, right? Like I do. I want the second stint around Chip Kelly. It worked for Cliff Kingsbury, didn't it? Have you seen Cliff Kingsbury? Listen, there's a reason why. Think about this dynamic for a second when we talk. I want to talk about Chip for a minute. I want to talk live about Chip, honestly, because I want to get everybody's opinions. And that moron on my YouTube page that said I was a racist because I like Chip Kelly as an OC is an absolute idiot. Okay, like doesn't even, dude, bro, you don't even know me. You have no idea what a blanket statement that is, like to make, like on somebody. Like I took a lot of offense to that, like honestly, because I think it's a shitty thing to do to call somebody something as ignorant as that when you're far from it, just because you like a specific coach, right? So I look at the Chip Kelly experiment. Yeah, yo, Christian, I swear to God, dude, look at my mentions on YouTube, man. Like, dude came right at me, first comment, because I said, what was his logic? I think his logic was because I still I'm a guy that I'm not a LaShawn McCoy guy. Like, I don't like Shady. I think Shady is too much about himself. The stuff that he's done, it's been undocumented, not thrown out there, have been some really shitty things that he's done to people. And everything about Shady is all about Shady, right? So I don't like Shady that way. So I said, I don't like Shady and I want Chip. So because of that, he said, man, so you like Chip the racist, so you just like him, you wanted him. No, like that's not the point. Like so far fetched. But anyway, I just thought it was, I mean, I can laugh at it because I know it's so far from the truth. But I look at the creativity from Chip Kelly, and I say when he came into the league, he tried to reinvent the game, and everything he did though up to that point was smart, scrimmaging with Bill Belichick and the Patriots, right? Understanding how the Patriots operate. The problem is he couldn't get out of his own way. He was so power hungry, right? Exactly his head, like gigantic ego, right? He was so power hungry that he wanted it all And he wanted to be, instead of just reinventing the offensive side of he wanted to reinvent the entire game, the way you run an organization, the way you practice, the way he wanted to do it all. And I'll be honest with you, he's not the first guy that's ever tried to do that. Okay. So I know everybody hated him, but he like again, like he's not the first coach to ever try to take over. So he had to eat crow. Goes to UCLA, right? Then he goes to Ohio State and he reinvents himself. And then he's not just going to Vegas as a guy, okay? He didn't just go to the Saints. The Saints are a hard franchise. Hard, right? Cap hell, can't draft, don't spend that team is in shambles, right? Chip Kelly is at the request of two guys, a Hall of Fame player and a Hall of Fame coach. Okay. One, the player is Tom Brady and the coach is Pete Carroll. You got two guys, Hall of Famers, that said, I want that dude. Now, I don't want Chip. I want Chip's mind. I want his creativity. I want his offensive mindset. And we're bringing him here. And they paid him the highest of any OC in football at $6 million. Okay. But the reason why I bring this up is because if you look at the dynamic in Washington, the same thing happened. Okay. Cliff Kingsbury got that job in Arizona way over his head. Like we all remember, he had the best crib. If MTV Cribs was still on, he would have had the best crib on the show, right? We all remember him draft night chilling in the huge crib, right? All by himself. Everything was marble and white, like Henry Hill type shit, right? So you don't think that dude had an ego? He wanted to do the same thing. Wanted to reinvent the wheel. What happened? Shit the bed, right? But then he comes back with a veteran, bordering on Hall of Fame type coach in Dan Quinn, who had his own second go around to reinvent himself, right? And what does he do? He had Jaden Daniels, but he reinvented the way they played offense out there in Washington. He made household names out of guys that maybe didn't think it would have. He brought back the evolution of Zach Ertz. He made Austin Eckler, serviceable again. A guy that basically had no legs, right? Cliff Kingsbury reinvented himself as an OC. This is the same situation with Chip Kelly going out there with Pete Carroll. So that's why I wanted Chip. I wanted Chip's mind, dude. Like I wanted his offensive prowess. I wanted to be the team to say the second round of Chip Kelly was the gem. And Christian, you're right. They need to release a TV special about him and Howie's beef. Listen, man, here's the funny thing about that. Christian, I said this before, that in a crazy type of way, Howie could have a lot of his success to be thanked to Chip Kelly. Not because of what Chip did, but because of the way Chip got him treated and made Howie question himself once he threw Baby in the corner, and he came back and was like, yo, I need to do better, whether we thought so or not. And look what's happened. He's taking himself to the next level. So essentially, possibly, Chip Kelly is one of the, recipients for the Hall of Fame award that goes to Howie Roseman as a GM, man. I don't know, but I think it's pretty ironic. Mike says, all we ask for is variety. Yeah, we could get in that comment a little bit, but Philly will not stand for mediocre. He's like T.I., man. Don't want no mediocre people. Exactly. No mediocre. Definitely not, man. Butterfly effect stuff now, 6 degrees. I'll tell you, man. Like I'm very excited about the Vegas Raiders this year. Like I am. I'm very excited, and they don't even have a quarterback yet. I'm going to tell you now what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to sign two quarterbacks um, in Vegas. I do. I think they're going to sign Darnold and they're going to sign DTR from Cleveland. And I think Chip Kelly's going to try to run some type of gadget offense that, switches in and out quarterbacks, kind of like, they did a few times with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. I think that you're going to see that. I do. And I'm excited about it. I want to see it. I do. I want to see it. I do want to see the Vegas turnaround because I'm a football fan. Okay. Like, yeah, you see the tagline, Tony Cotillo Show, not just Philly, right? That means I'm not just Philly, meaning I could talk about several different cities and sports and listen, the lineage of the silver and black is huge, man. The NFL is better when the Raiders are good. It's very simple. You got the black hole on TV, that's a good thing. So I want to see them be rebuilt. And I'm so good. I'm so good. Um that I'm so good. I'm so glad that Brady is a part of that and trying to rebuild that. Now, Mike says Wilson will be available. Pete, get him. Like I don't know, man. Like I thought about that. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. I would not be shocked if Russell Wilson retired. Honestly, I would not be shocked one bit. He's made his money. He's got guaranteed dollars still coming to him. And I mean, he had guaranteed $20 million last year, man. Like, come on. Like, I think that his body is beat up more than we know. He did still have nagging injuries last year. And, as much as people may say they don't like Russ and, they don't like his personality, one thing about Russ is he's a very prideful quarterback. He is. And I don't think Russ was happy with his performance most of the time. And I think he knows that he might have lost it a little bit. And I think that he's one of those guys that says, if I'm not the Russ that I expect to be, I don't want to play no more. So I firmly agree, and here's why I think that's the case, because he bounced around so much and he went to a situation last year in Pittsburgh. And now you see the rumors with Pittsburgh coming out trying to trade for Matt Stafford. And you're seeing that as a veteran. And if you're seeing that, you got to start questioning yourself and thinking, man, maybe I don't have it anymore. Right. And are you willing to go through all the grind just for a paycheck? And he's a big family guy, dude. Like, seriously, he's a big family guy. He's got a beautiful wife in Sierra and great family. And I think that maybe he's at his time where he just wants to chill. Right. I just think that. Mike says, I know it's early. Wow. Damn, no one know that. I Man, I know it's early. Biggest shocker that will come from the off season. You know what? I don't know if this is a shocker, Mike, but you know how I get, you've been following me for a long time, man. So, and I get these gut like feels by some of the stuff I read and some of the things I understand. I, I, I think the Eagles get Myles Garrett. Hear me out for a second. Like I thought about this, right? I thought about this a lot. So if you heard what I talked about with why Bond is such an Eagle, why Saquon is such an Eagle, right? The diligence that the Eagles do in free agency and in drafting about the person, not just the player, right? So Myles Garrett is a tremendous leader, is a great person in the locker room, good person off the field, right? Like he's one of those dudes. And the Eagles, the way this sets up, if they strike out in free agency, if they strike out all four guys, they're going to get 4 compensatory third round picks. 4. Okay. The Eagles are a deep team. So, for what Miles Garrett is going to command, what the Browns are going to command, the Eagles are in just as good of a position as anybody to meet that match. When they want somebody and they know they can get a game changer, they're going to go out and get them. They did with AJ Brown when nobody thought they would get him. They gave him up. We watched Andy Reid do it with Jason Peters. Gave up a first and a third. One of the best trades the Eagles ever made. Say what you want about him. And I think that the Eagles understand that even though they like Jalix Hunt, even though they like Nolan Smith, they still would rather have Josh Sweat. But they also know Josh Sweat's going to price himself out. And they also know that Myles Garrett, they could possibly dump a Bryce Huff salary that's a mistake on that team and bring in a Myles Garrett. And Howie working his magic to sign him to a deal to have him here for the next 3 to 4 years. And I honestly think that this is going to happen. And the reason why is you got to look at when everybody says, well, it'll never be the Eagles. And I always say, okay, that's fine. So who? Looking around the NFL, who has the assets and the willingness and the money to be able to bring a guy like Myles Garrett in? Not many. And let's understand this too. Mike's right. He wants that family feel, but he wants a ring. He wants a ring. And, I know he doesn't have the leverage to say, you need to trade me here. However, if he works up the leverage of who I'll sign an extension with, right? There's not a team that's going to give up that draft capital for a 1-year rental. So that's going to be a big deal. That's going to have to be a big deal. So I honestly, my gut says that the Eagles are toying around right now. And let me ask you, the audience, before I get out of here, because we're going to get out of here in a couple minutes. If I said to you, you can either sign one or two of your top four, okay, which is Bond, Becton, Josh Sweat, Milt Williams, or you can get rid of all of them, let them go, and trade for Myles Garrett. What are you doing? I'd be shocked that that poll wasn't 90-10 in the favor of Myles Garrett. Because essentially, the money would be there. It's all about, do you want to give it draft capital? And I'll tell you what, this is what also works in the Eagles' favor. What also works in the Eagles' favor is their drafts have been so good, okay? Have been so good over the last 3 to 4 years that they have the ability to give up a number 32 overall pick and another third that they're going to get back anyway in compensatory picks. So I think that the reason why I say I think it's going to be a shock is because a lot of people think that they can't get it done because of the draft capital and the money. But I think they did. I think that the Eagles are going to trade for Myles Garrett. And I think that is a foregone possibility. And it's going to blow up the headlines. It's going to blow up everywhere. And we're going to be going, wow, Howie did it again. On that note, I'm going to wrap this up. As always, the Tony Catullo Show live right here on the Tony Catullo YouTube and Facebook page. If you're not liking and subscribing, please get over there and do that as well. Make sure you get involved in the comments. You got a lot of cool stuff coming up. As always, keep an eye out for March 13th. Is going to be a big day, a big Thursday night, March 13th, for a debut for me and another person on another said network that we are going to take over, in my opinion. And it's going to be the show that you're going to want to tune into every single Thursday. It'll be Thursday night, time permitting. I'm gonna assume probably around 10, a little late night, about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. But very interactive show, very high passionate show. No fabrication, two guys, two big voices, two big opinions, and getting everybody involved. So I'm looking forward to that. Right now, I don't want to let out the name yet, so we're getting some artwork worked up and getting some stuff done. So we're gonna get into that as well. Make sure you get into the Tony Cotola show on YouTube. Several different, if you like wrestling, we got the wrestling for you. If you like basketball, I got the basketball for you. I got baseball, got hockey, got it all, man. Like, not just Philly either. I'm gonna start some music segments as well. Got some power ranking segments. We're gonna do little top threes. I want this as interactive as possible. And again, I'm not going to say I'm the alternative. I'm not going to say anything like that. What I'm just say is I'm a pretty authentic dude that likes to do this kind of thing and talk back and forth with the audience. So the better the audience, the better the show. Very, very simple. But as always, man, for everybody checking in, everybody, all the 175 viewers that were watching live, greatly appreciate it. Make sure you swing over to that YouTube page. You like and subscribe. And again, as always, like I always say, man, let's just continue to enjoy the Super Bowl. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you back here next time.